All right, everybody, let's talk about Gran Turismo. Was it worth seeing? Find out right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Let's talk about movies. Yeah, the most recent release. I got to see this movie last week. Gran Turismo, which is an adaptation basically of the video game based on a true story. I would assume very loosely based on a true story of a guy who is very good at the video game and gets picked up to be a actual race car driver. So right off the bat, let me just tell you that if you've seen movies like Fast and the Furious, things to that effect, in a lot of ways, the way this is shot does not measure up to some of the ways that Fast and the Furious is shot. So, with that being said, let's talk about the acting and the reason to see it. So, should you actually see it? Let's just go into that right now. But before we do, make sure you like and subscribe. I am trying to build the channel out, so if you can't subscribe, please subscribe and give me some likes. Thumbs up, yeah. All right, so back to should you see it? Is it worth seeing? Yeah, it's worth seeing if you like driving movies and you like that kind of, raw action with the sound all over the place and in the theater as opposed to being at home. Yeah, it's worth seeing. The story is exceptionally mediocre. Everything that you think happens. All right, there's some little twists in there and things to that effect, but not anything off the wall or anything that's a big twist or anything to that effect. So if you're expecting something that exceeds your expectations, you're just not going to get it here, unfortunately. So the question is why. It was directed by Neil Blomkamp, who did District 9, Elysium, movies like that. He really is not an action director, especially a movie about cars. So he comes at a different direction. Like, I didn't understand this, and if you guys have any clue why a director would do this, because I'm sure that he was in the editing room at the time, we get scenes where we're in the middle of a race, right? And then he stops the race, like he pauses it to give us little, you're in first place, you're in second place. Why would you stop action to tell us who's in first? Why can't it just be text on the bottom? Why couldn't it just been that little word balloon that they have above the cars that he's already doing and just follow the cars? I don't know. It's the weirdest thing to stop action to give us a piece of information that was irrelevant, except for, some text or even a piece of dialogue in his ear. You just clocked first place. I just do not understand stopping action. And people do that a lot. Like there are other films that even in, Star Trek Renegades, and I was against this, we stopped the action in the fight scenes to go to a flashback. Makes no sense. But anyway, that's what this director does. I'm not sure he was the right director for this. He is able to get good performances. The performances are good. But before we talk about the actors, let's talk about the writers. All right, so there's 3 different writers on this mediocre script. I find that really hard to believe. So maybe it was too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't know. But Jason Hall, of course, Neil brought him on because he was the writer on District 9. Makes sense. And he did some episodes of Buffy and stuff to that effect. Then you have some writers here that are actually like Balin. I mean, he's an Oscar award winner. He did King Richard, Creed 3. He only did like 3 movies, and they're all like huge movies. So good for him, man. And he won an Oscar only by writing 3 movies. That's pretty good. I don't know if it was King Richard or whatever. I don't know what he won for. And then you have Alex, and it's funny that he came from the from production department, like props and not really props, but art direction. He came from the art department. And then you have Alexei, who wrote Watchmen, the movie, not the TV show. And yeah, so these guys have some really big. I mean, they don't have a lot of credits, but what they do have is pretty big. So good for them. But you have all these 3 mentally extraordinary writers, creative, and and Watchmen is an adaptation, just like this is an adaptation. And I just think that the script was mediocre, which is unfortunate. I don't know what happened there. So I can give you 3 reasons to see this film. David Harbour, and some of the scenes in the on the track. that's the reason to see this film. David Harbour carried this film on his back. He is easily the heart of the film. He gave a great performance here. He's the one that pulled everything together. Orlando Bloom was kind of on the outskirts of this thing. He was kind of the throwaway character that came in every once in a while. And then, of course, you have the chemistry between, and I'm going to massacre his name, Archie Madekwe. I'm just going to call him Archie from now on. So he's playing Jan, or Jan. I guess it's Jan. I think they called him Jan in the movie. Jan Martinborough. So he's an actual real life person. And the other Martin Burrows, the Jaman Hansu, or is it just Jaman Hansu? I think the D is actually silent. And then Jerry Horner plays his mom, or Jaman's wife. So here's what I didn't understand. So we started out, and I'm not going to really give any major spoilers here. It's just going to be little touches on plot. So we have the tropes, okay? So we have John's character, or Jean, however you say it. His character is, of course, the hero. He's coming in. He's a fish out of water, but all these guys are kind of fish out of water because none of them have raced before. They came from the video game. That's their deal. That they were armchair warrior kind of things. And I liked some of the effects where they had the car forming around them. Some of that kind of stuff was creative. I liked that stuff. But with of course, they have the bully. They have to have the bully trope. The guy that's just might be a little bit better than him and is, egging him on and teasing him and, being toxic and everything like that. And then we have, the Kappa things, which I like that they made them all gold. It was very easy to pick out, all their suits were gold. The car was gold. It was very easy to pick out who the villain was. But we have a very tropey villain. So we have this guy inside, the video game guys that were first competing. And we had the same exact character twice. And I don't understand that. So I don't understand we had to build conflict, but that you have to use the same tropey character twice. So obviously the bully in the beginning becomes his friend, and then we have the big bully when he actually becomes a race car driver. And it's exactly the same character twice. I don't understand it. It doesn't really work because like we're even watching the movie, and like we already just saw this. We saw this in the beginning of the film, and now we have seeing it at the end of the film with a different guy. So it's very odd. And I didn't understand some of the uh, other things that had to do with. So he had to qualify to be a race car driver. So he was racing, but he also had to qualify, I guess, to move on. I don't know. So that was really odd to me. So I understand the qualifying thing, but at the end they bring in the other people because they needed a bigger team. So they bring on the people from his class or whatever else that were just underneath him, including the bully that now becomes his friend. But they didn't have to qualify to be in the same race that he's in. I don't get that. Does anybody know how that works? Please tell me in the comments below because I was major confused by that. That took me completely out of the movie, and I was trying to think about how that was possible, how they could be in the same race as him and not qualify when the whole thing was that he had to qualify. I was majorly confused by that. So the characters, the actors generally did a good job. I can't say there was any really poor acting in the thing, which does lead to, Neil Blomkamp's directing style where he is able to get, these performances out of everybody. Because, again, I had no qualms with, and nobody stood out as being a bad actor. There was no scenes that, stood out being the fact that there was bad work in that particular scene. And we do get this little twist, too, where there is an accident in there and one of the audience members is killed by the rolling car. So I had never seen that before in a film, but that was interesting. But aside from anything else, there really wasn't anything that, stood out. Plus, on top of that, you guys tell me also, they trained with a certain type of car, right? And I understand in the video game they can switch their cars, but in real life, they changed cars. So he was trained on this particular car, and then towards the end, they had a completely different car. And they said it even went faster and blah, blah, blah. But I don't think he was ever trained on. We never saw him being trained on that, which also took me out of that, where it's just like, we're just throwing a new car in here? What? How did this happen? So, there was I thought that there was some confusing parts of that script that didn't need to be in there. So, again, but that's why, if I'm going to rate this film, and I love driving movies, everybody makes fun of me because I love Fast and Furious, but I love, that adrenaline rush of car movies and racing movies. And especially now when you have racing movies, you also are bringing in the underdog guy that you're kind of cheering for. I like all that, and the guy was likable. I just saw him in Heart of Stone with Gal Gadot. But he has a ton of credits, that guy. So again, that's testament to the casting, because he looks a little bit like the actor. He was from Midsommar as well, so he's got really good credits behind him. He's been acting for a very long time. So he was in Les Miserables. He was in the TV show C. I think that was on Apple Plus. So again, and David Harbour, of course, has credits out the wazoo. So yeah, those two guys together, they held the film together. Another criticism, and you guys, once you see this, you'd let me know what you think. So his parents are awful people. His parents are awful people. So, during that accident scene, the guy's in the hospital. First of all, before that, any kind of good parent, so they don't really like what he's doing, right? They really don't. The father particularly is like, it's a pipe dream, whatever else. But then he actually gets in the car and gets to actually race. You would think that they would be on a plane, boom, sitting in those bleachers, sitting in that audience, cheering him on from the first one. You know, the very first race, you would think they would be there. They're not. They are not there. We drop off from the family completely. We actually don't see them even again until way later. So then he gets into the accident, right? So he's in the hospital. Did they show up to the hospital? No, they don't. And who knows how long he's there. But it's more than a day. I can tell you that. And they never show up to the hospital. How awful are these people? Oh my God. If I'm in a hospital, even in a different country, you better bet that my family is going to travel. You know, especially when it's not just a paper cut. You know, they call them on the phone. How you doing? Well, I don't know. I'm not dead, I guess. Thanks for coming. The hell, man? I don't know. I thought that was really weird. Let me know if that's weird. So we don't actually ever see the family ever show up to even a race until at the end, which is, you know, it's obvious that's what's going to happen. Would your family show up to the hospital? Would your family support you at all? Oh, man. I don't know. So I'm going to have to, out of 10, I'm going to have to rate this like a 6 because it's so tropey. It's so predictable. It's fun while you're sitting there. I'm not going to tell anybody not to see it because, again, the experience of those kind of movies in the theater is bar none. And again, David Harbour's great, and the relationship between David Harbour's character and John, or Jan, however you say it, Archie's character, is really good. So, and then to see, you know, how it compared to real life, I'm sure that they really took liberties, but it's generally a decent story. It's just that it comes off very predictable. Anyway, that's all for me. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys see it? Did you like it? Am I wrong? Tell me below if my take is just a little bit too harsh. But I don't think it is. I think it's just middle of the road. You know, I was hoping for something more. That's pretty much the end of it. All right, so let me plug my own stuff here. Tales of Ravenor, The Iron Witch, my new fantasy book. You can purchase it on Amazon. I do not have it on my regular site yet because, you know, my donors are just getting it as well, so I didn't want to plug it on my own site yet. DestinyAurora.net. I'll put the link there in the description below. Lords of LA, my Vampire Mob in the 50s. I will be releasing the second issue soon. I'll be working on that Kickstarter probably next week. And then my my sci-fi series, Destiny Aurora. And this is a 4-novel series. This is an adaptation in comic form of the first novel. The audiobook is now on Audible. It is also a board game. I only have a few, I think I have like 100 copies left of that. And so if you want to support the channel or if you want any of those things signed, I am signing them as well. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. And remember to like and subscribe. I am trying to build the channel up. So I just did get monetized. So I am trying to do this more regularly. All right, thank you again so much for watching. And I'll have additional videos wrong way, on this side as well if you want to click on some of the other stuff that I've reviewed or spoke about. I just did Ahsoka. So getting some agreement and some backlash on my review of that one. All right, again, thanks for watching, guys. All right, bye-bye.